Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's just gone 17 minutes past 7 p.m. here on Salam Media. This is Local Matters with myself, Ahmed Kaji. We are together until 9 p.m. this evening. Looking forward to spending the next hour and a half with you. We'll be discussing everything regarding the local government elections, and not just regarding that. We'll also be speaking around what is important for municipalities and different aspects of what we should be considering around local governance and what exactly is available for people to understand, and what we should be honestly thinking about, not just around local municipalities, but what is available to us from an information point of view, from a growth point of view, and how we should be holding people to account as well. There's multiple aspects to what we will be discussing. And speaking towards one of those things is also around what possibilities and potential municipalities have around us. Their responsibilities, not just for basic services, but also in creating environments where businesses can thrive, whether that be through infrastructure, utilities, distribution, local economic development, multiple aspects around that. They should be responsible not just for the maintenance of the city, but also for the growth of that. To speak more towards that, we will be joined now by Terence Corrigan. He is the Project and Publications Manager at the Institute for Race Relations. Terence, thank you very much for joining us here this evening on Salam Media. It's greatly appreciated.
Ahmed, always a pleasure. I value your media house very greatly.
Oh, we really, really appreciate your kind words and your support to us. I think going into the conversation directly, when we talk about municipalities as economic catalysts, what should a well-functioning municipality actually be doing to help businesses grow and potentially create jobs at the same time as well?
Right. Look, when your colleague contacted me about this, I pointed out coincidentally that I actually have a study on matters around this coming out in the next couple of weeks. So this is very well timed, I think, both for myself professionally and also for the country, given the impending local government elections. First thing I would say is that before any government can provide any, let's say, higher level service, whether it's economic development or education or healthcare or whatever, you need the administrative systems to be functional. So things can only function well once they are functioning at all. And this, I think, is the first hurdle South Africa's local government has to overcome. Now, across the world, this is from Dubai to Dallas to Dar es Salaam. Local governments are taking a role that they would probably not have been expected to assume 20 or 30 years ago. Cities in particular are sites of either production or consumption. In other words, is your local sphere geared towards investing and producing, or towards consuming? Two very, very different economic models. Now, one of the problems that afflicts a lot of African cities is they tend to be geared towards that consumption model. It's where the government is located. It's sort of non-value adding trade. It's transport. It's things like that. Cities of production, that is the kind of thing that you see in Asian cities, Taipei, Seoul, the last 20, 30 years, Beijing, Shanghai, Kuala Lumpur. South Africa sits in a kind of middle area. Now, South Africa, interestingly enough, local government is enshrined in our constitution. That's very unusual. Usually across the world, local governments tend to be either a creature of convention. They've simply always existed, so they continue almost by sheer force of habit, or they are deliberate devolutions of national power. In South Africa, right from the beginning, the idea was that the country needed a strong local sphere. The ANC particularly wasn't so keen on provinces, but it wanted local government. So what we have is a very elaborate system that provides for local government powers and for their responsibilities. So every municipality, for instance, has to produce a development plan, the so-called integrated development plan, and that is also a requirement from legislation, which gives life to the constitutional provisions. So in theory, we're set. We have the architecture drawn up. This is local governments are meant to fulfill roles that include coordination, balancing the straight economic imperatives with the social and societal imperatives, getting people involved, building that sense of ownership, ensuring that it's done democratically. But I'm sure that anybody who lives in certainly in most of South Africa's largest cities can testify to the fact that this is potential rather than realization. And living in Johannesburg, one sees very much the opposite. That it's almost like the administration of the city stands in the way of that of that economic growth. And in order to get South Africa moving, South Africa, let's say as a whole concept, we absolutely have to get our local governments and particularly our cities moving.
A big part of what we are seeing in those issues is based on high unemployment, perhaps poor service delivery as well. Municipalities overall are just struggling to create an environment around job creation, around economic growth. Where exactly are things going wrong?
Okay, look, I think that a lot of it is simply the bases are not there. A lot of municipalities in South Africa have some sort of have incentive schemes and investment agencies, and should provide lucrative, and I mean lucrative in not in a pejorative sense, opportunities for business people to supply goods and services. The problem is, I think that many of them are failing on those on providing high quality basics: water, electricity, sanitation, transport. In order for a community to function, you need those four things. Now, here's an interesting detail, certainly about Gauteng. Gauteng does not sit on a large body of water. This is very rare around the world. You need invariably cities where they grow organically grow because the basics of life are available. Water being prime among them. Now, that then creates the need, to manage those water resources that are available very prudently. And in Johannesburg's case, to ultimately look at bringing it in from places like Lesotho. I have heard chatter about about getting pipelines as far away as the DRC. Now, I'm not sure if that at this point is a serious consideration, but you get the point. Transport systems. One of the big problems we have on the intersection between economic growth and poverty is the amount of money that low-income households have to spend simply getting to work. If you're lucky enough to have a job, it's not an exaggeration to say that there are people who pretty much work in order to pay for the costs of getting to work. Now, all of these things can be ameliorated by, as I say, getting those basics right. Now, we have not been able. Now, where those fail, as in we've seen water outages in Johannesburg, and there's a big history behind this, which I can discuss if you'd like. That can do one of two things. First of all, it ramps up the cost of doing business because individual entrepreneurs or factories or whatever have to make those have to step in and make those investments themselves. We've seen in a place like Lichtenburg, the departure of the Clover dairy factory, simply because they couldn't rely on the municipality to provide the basics, the water, the electricity, the road network that they needed. And I'm afraid many municipalities are somewhere on that trajectory, including the one that I'm sitting in. So get those things right. once those things are right, then I think you can start to talk about things like partnerships, but or let me not say partnerships. Let me say cooperation between business and the local and your local municipality. It was said to me by a business leader that something that South Africa has lost in the last 3 to 4 decades has been those little chambers of business that often existed in small towns. The old Handels Institute. Why was this important? Because it gave a forum for business and town administrations to exchange ideas and to see, to talk in good faith about what was required. Those institutions are gone, and in many instances, those relationships are gone. So essentially, what I'm saying is we have to start, like, in many ways, building from the foundations up. But local governments, unfortunately, it is complicated in South Africa that one of the key functions that most large cities give to them, which is crime control, is not a function that most municipalities in South Africa have. And I firmly believe that what we've seen over the last couple of years, and what we've seen at the Matlanga Commission, for instance, is that in order to get local government working, we are going to have to get some sort of control on the organized mafias that have broken into too much of South Africa's administration.
You've given a lot of detail over there, and I'd love to go into a bit more and to extrapolate that a bit more. But we are just going to go for our short ad break now for our 7:30 p.m. Ad break. And I think when we come back, what I would like to maybe touch on is you spoke about how there are basic service delivery challenges facing the municipality.
Right.
Businesses sometimes try to get into resolving that, and sometimes they do face a bit of red tape. I'd like to perhaps just go into a bit more of that detail after we take a short break. And yeah, I think if you don't mind just staying on the line, we'll be continuing conversation as well. So it is just gone past 7:30 p.m. here on Salam Media. This is Local Matters with myself, Ahmed Kaji. We will be continuing the conversation here with regards to everything within the local governance space with the Institute for Race Relations. Terence Corrigan joining us here. Please stay tuned here to Salam Media.
Across Sudan, starvation is tightening its grip. With rising food prices and widespread malnutrition, 8.7 million people are now facing emergency or famine-level hunger. As the conflict intensifies and aid routes narrow, families in Sudan are running out of options and time. The Al Imdad Foundation is delivering life-saving humanitarian aid to those most at risk. Stand with Sudan. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031-208-9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold, and diamond jewelry.
Are you banking with convenience, transparency, and flexibility? With Al Baraka Bank's transactional banking account, you can enjoy convenient everyday banking designed around your needs. Benefit from zero fees on point-of-sale transactions and manage your banking easily through Al Baraka's secure mobile banking app and internet banking platform. From everyday payments to managing your personal or business banking, Al Baraka makes banking simple, transparent, and convenient. Visit albaraka.co.za to learn more. Al Baraka, your partner bank. Al Baraka Bank Limited is an authorized financial services and credit provider.
Right now, in lands many of us feel deeply connected to, a mother holds a sick child, worried and fearful as she knows her nearest hospital has been destroyed. This is the mother we go beyond borders to reach. Doctors Without Borders is there in the world's toughest places. We go where others can't or won't, and we go immediately. When you give to us, we go even further. Visit msf.org.za/sadaqa, that's SADAQAH, and support Doctors Without Borders today. Doctors Without Borders, we go there.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good evening. Welcome here to Salam Media. It's just gone 33 minutes past 7 p.m. Central African time. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Local Matters with myself, Ahmed Kaji. We are together until 9 p.m. this evening. We are in conversation with Terence Corrigan from the Institute for Race Relations. Terence, thanks again for joining us here on Salam Media.
Always a pleasure.
Just before the break, you were speaking about the difficulties facing local government with regards to service delivery, water, electricity, various other issues with regards to waste collection, roads, public transport, all of those which are affecting the economic growth which we could be facing in South Africa and more specifically in Johannesburg. A part of what we have seen then is many private companies, many NGOs coming in to try making a difference. And unfortunately, they are being hit with some bureaucracy, some red tape. What should government be doing, or what can they remove quickly from some of their processes to ensure that government businesses can just help sort out some of those problems?
Look, these are sort of intricate issues. In practice, basically what you need is some sort of memorandum of understanding if you want some sort of formal partnership agreement, which I'm very much in favor of. The problem is that there is almost a culture, if I can put it that way, within much of our governance system as a whole that values procedural buy-in from internal stakeholders. So, it's the mayor, it's the municipal manager, whatever, over the resolution of sort of existential problems. So, for instance, you'll find that that concessioning water or electricity plants is a task of years and years and years. Now, there are good reasons to be cautious about this, because it is possible that such agreements can be exploited by bad actors. There are also problems with bringing in external service providers where you have very weak oversight. But I think we are now at a point where essentially the choice is no longer ideological. It is simply a question of what can be made functional. So I would say that there is a case for emergency measures to start concessioning, and also to essentially accept what amount to donations. There are business organizations that have offered, for instance, to take care of certain stretches of road. That also faces enormous resistance on the basis that the repairs may not be up to spec, and I understand the concerns, but I routinely drive past potholes that have been gaping for months on end. So I think I think we're sort of beyond the quibbling, but that is essentially band-aiding a problem. Long term, I would say we need to look at concessioning on a kind of build owner and transfer model. Things like waterworks, electricity substations, etc., roadways. In other words, a private company would come and do the work, operate it for a determined period of time for a set payment, and then transfer the asset back to the municipality. Or, the concession could in principle last semi-indefinitely if it is doing a good job. But in order to get that to work, as I say, you actually need a core administration. I would say that what we perhaps need to do is to reconceptualize the way that local government has been approached. The idea that the municipality itself needs to provide, I don't think that is in all cases viable. And I think there are certain municipalities in South Africa, because we have this wall-to-wall system, where some are simply never going to be viable, and we need a very, very serious conversation, which I talk about in my paper, about what we can do in those situations. Municipalities that are simply structurally unviable, they are never going to have the resource base, the skills base, or whatever to do what is expected of them. And we need to think very carefully and have a few ideas on what can be done to deal with them. But as far as the economic question goes, which is what we've been focusing on, until you get your basic service delivery down, you can basically forget about it. No firm manufacturing tomato sauces coming into a city that can't keep the water on. No company that needs to run that needs to effectively invest in its own generators to keep its power going, when into something sensitive, like computer banks that have to be powered all the time, is going to look at an environment like that. Yes, there are firms that have adapted through things like boreholes or through solar power. But that is a sort of firm by firm response. If you actually want the economy as a system to grow, government needs to be able to govern.
It seems then that the big challenge, what you're that we are seeing, is because there's a limited supply of basic service delivery, no new investment either is coming into the city, let alone perhaps the current businesses which are trying to just survive. There seems to be no real new investment coming into Johannesburg or perhaps any other city which is lacking any basic service delivery.
I'll give you a number that is probably South Africa's scariest, and that's 15%. That is the proportion of GDP, or the investment equivalents to GDP. 15%. Why is that scary? Because the National Development Plan said we need at least 30, and comparable middle-income peer economies routinely manage 30, more like 35, and in some cases 40% and above. South Africa is an absolute laggard. Now, there are many reasons for this, and municipal service delivery is but one. The problem is that this is foundational. Until we can get we can get that problem under control, I don't see the national needle moving. Crime as well, got to deal with that. It always strikes me, many of South Africa's cities, there's a sort of inner core which people don't want to go to. I think of Pietermaritzburg, where I was a student. I think of Johannesburg. Downtown Joburg was a great place. I used to frequent it when I moved here in the 90s. You just don't go there now, and if people, businesses, etc., feel unsafe, they will not put money into it. And sometimes it's more than just a sentiment. There's a very real risk that your investment gets stolen or vandalized. So yes, getting those basics correct, making the city livable, that is the first and necessary step to making it prosperous.
Finally, Terence, we are chasing time, and unfortunately, I wish we could spend a lot more time discussing this. But looking ahead to the local elections coming up on the 4th of November, what should voters then be asking their political party representatives or those who are, those candidates? What should we be asking them about economic plans for the municipalities? It's great to ask about their promises about service delivery, but surely there needs to be a plan for economic growth.
Look, I really don't think that you can separate the two. Without services, growth is not going to happen. I suppose the question I would ask is, what is your plan for the rational use of the local rand? What benefits do you plan to offer local residents for money they spend in your town and which your council collects? How are you going to distribute that, and how are you going to make it multiply? On a more esoteric note, the question I encourage everyone to ask their candidates, and I'm sure that this will resonate with many of your listeners. What are you going to do to make sure that this city is a city that I will still be able to visit my grandchildren in? This is something I find so heartbreaking. So many South African families, across the board, of all races, religions, creeds, whatever, have seen their children, their grandchildren depart for other parts of the world. That's not healthy. I would like my children and my grandchildren to see me when I'm a doddering old man. And for that, the country, the city, the community has to make a proposition that makes it attractive. And that's what I would say. That's the question to ask.
Terence, thank you very much for your time here this evening. Greatly appreciated, and very insightful insight into what basic service delivery and what the economy of our local municipalities are looking like. Thanks for your time this evening.
Thank you, Ahmed, and I look forward to coming on again.
Thanks very much. Terence Corrigan from the Institute of Race Relations joining us here on Salam Media. Local Matters with myself, Ahmed Kaji, just discussing what the economies of municipalities are looking like, and what we should be considering heading into the elections. And yeah, quite sobering in many ways that you can imagine. It's just gone quarter to 8 Central African time here on Salam Media. Please stay tuned. We'll be back after this short break.
Shema.